Rob, I know coaches tend to work in the present, but first of all, just in the scheme of things, how important or how proud are you of what you achieved at Bristol all those years ago now?
Oh yeah, I mean obviously it was a fantastic couple of games, but the truth is it wasn't just the one-off occasion that got us in the Premiership. You know, it was a big season from the players all round. They worked extremely hard all through the year. They took a bit of stick when they lost a couple of games, you know, even though we kind of had, I'm not going to say you never plan in losing, but even though we understood the reasons for losing at the time, and they dealt with all that really well. And I think they approached the whole format that year really, really well, and that culminated in us really building the level of our performances right through to the away leg at Bristol. And I think, you know, they all the guys involved should be immensely proud. But the reality is, it wasn't. It feels like often now you look back, it feels like a one-off occasion. It wasn't. It was a season-long battle, and the foundations for that were put in place in the previous seasons and previous years. And all we've really done is tried to keep moving forward from that evening. And so, you know, we don't hark back to it all that much. You know, it's not. I know a lot of the older players, and I know I talk about it sometimes as it being one of the most important games in our history to date. Well, that's because it helped us get into the Premiership, and so that's why it was so important. But do we look back and go, it was the defining level of performance? No, because we've had to play a lot better since then to achieve what we've achieved, you know. And I think, you know, that's the way I look at it. It was a nice stepping stone along the way, but it was a stepping stone, and we've had to move on considerably from that, and we will have to play considerably better than we did that night to get anything out of the game on this Friday.
Yeah, what are you expecting from Bristol? Obviously, you had your first season in the Premiership. That first season is always going to be a little bit tough, isn't it?
It is, but I think the reality is Bristol it wouldn't be right for me to try and compare, because it is like chalk and cheese. Bristol have been a Premiership club, or in various guises of what the Premiership's about, you know, the top league club, for longer than we have. You know, they've been out of it for a little while, but you know, you could claim they're a top flight club for a lot longer than Exeter have been a top flight club. So, you know, they've got a foundation there and a basis and a history of that, and so them being in the Premiership, as I said, is slightly different to the way we got into the Premiership and the things we had to do. That said, you know, it is tough if in your first, not just your first season, it's tough in your first 3 seasons. It's tough when you get 7 and 8 seasons in. You know, it's tough for us now. You know, if you look at the start we've had, we've got 1 win from 3, so you know, it isn't that it's easy at any stage. So I think they're going all right. I mean, they probably feel pretty unlucky not to have won the first game, where I thought they played particularly well. And a little bit like us, they found themselves in a scenario where they went to Wasps last week, who are a team that bang on form. We lost away at Wasps as well. So I think, you know, for me, it's really important that as a group we really focus on ourselves and what we want to achieve, and actually don't go going down the line of thinking, well, Bristol lost last week, it's their first season back in the Premiership. You know, almost don't start going to expect things that really have no foundation. The things that have foundation, the things that we can affect, is how we turn up. And I think that's been our big message all week. Let's not talk about the past. Let's not talk about what happened at Bristol. Let's not talk about where they stand in the Premiership. Let's make sure we focus on the things that make us good, and that's talking about ourselves.
Is one of the things you're talking about the fact it's a local derby?
Yes, that's one of the things. Obviously, they're our nearest Premiership side. That should make it a big game for us. But if I'm honest with you, the big thing I keep pushing with the lads is that it's a Premiership game of rugby, and because it's a Premiership game of rugby, it's a big game. You know, any time you win a game of Premiership rugby, you've done pretty well, whether that's home or away. And I think that's the important thing we're going to keep driving. You know, week by week, we have to decide to go onto a field and play in a way that we merit something out of the game, and that's going to be the big focus for us this week. You know, we have to be prepared to go to Bristol and work extremely hard first and foremost. You know, if the players' mindset is that they should be disappointed if they don't go to Bristol and score some tries, well, they're already getting it wrong. What they should be disappointed is that they don't turn up at Bristol and work very hard, and that's what I'm expecting from them. I'm not massively bothered about the necessarily the style of play or points that go on the board. I want to see players who want to turn up there and play a big tough game of rugby.
The Tribe always follow you in numbers anyway, but I mean, Friday night, 80, 85 miles up a motorway. It should be absolutely cracking atmosphere.
Well, that's the fantastic thing of Bristol being in the Premiership, is that it is, like I say, it's a closer local derby. Our supporters, it's the easiest away trip they can make. Likewise, when Bristol come back down here, it's a nice easy trip for their supporters as well. So it should be two big rugby occasions. Bristol, obviously, as I said, a big rugby city. We're becoming, I'd like to think, a big rugby city now, and good followers and good supporters and good rugby environments and good rugby stadiums should make for good games.